It's called trade, so it's not Christmas, it's trade. You got to actually give something to get something. And so what my job is to develop players so we create as many assets as we can. And sometimes you end up with too many guys for one spot, and you can make a move to make your team better. The general manager's job is to weigh the current cost versus the current gain versus the future damage. That's the decision time for every team in the league, not just for Ken and myself.
That's Mike Babcock talking about different options for the Red Wings as they get closer to the deadline. It's still several weeks away, but they're having so much success, and the need of a right-handed shot on the blue line continues to be brought up. It doesn't go away. And then it was only magnified when Henrik Zetterberg was quoted before the Avalanche game this last Thursday saying, quote, "Our window is closing down." He was talking about Kronwall, Datsuk, and himself. Zetterberg's 34, Kronwall's 34, Datsuk's 36. Datsuk's got 1 goal in his last 7 games, and you really are reminded that how fast those players could go on a downslide, right? Their careers could very much fall away before you even realize it. Sometimes that's the way it happens with great players. They have it 1 year, and then it just drifts away. Now, I don't think that Zetterberg's a year away from being a fourth liner or anything like that, and neither with Datsuk. But the question is this one of your best chances to win a Stanley Cup with this core before it all washes away? And I would say, yes, this is one of your best chances, and it's because of a lot of the young guys. But as Babcock said there in that cut, it's called trade. You have to give up something. What would the Red Wings give up? Well, they have a lot of young players. They have Tatar, Nyquist, Sheahan, Yurko, Ouellette, Mrazek. You got Mantha and Larkin, 2 guys that haven't played on the big league club. Larkin at Michigan and Mantha, who's in Grand Rapids. These are pieces. You have to give up some of these guys if you want to make a splash and get a big-time player. Tyler Myers is a name that will not go away. He's 6'8". He's enormous for Buffalo. They suck, so they're obviously going to be looking to upgrade their team. He's one of their best assets. 25 years old, right shot, he's giant. The Red Wings have been rumored to trade for him for over a year. Is this the time to do it? Well, Helena St. James had reported in the last month, and it wasn't really like a for sure thing, but what she thought it would take to get Tyler Myers, and I'm absolutely against this package. She said a second-round pick, Jakob Kindl, and Tatar. And I wouldn't do Tatar for Tyler Myers straight up, so I'm certainly not doing that and giving up a second-round pick and Jakob Kindl, and you could throw Jakob Kindl in there. But Tatar,
just a throwaway piece.
Tatar's 24, and he's got 23 goals, leads the team. I'm not trading him for anything. And to go on some of those names, I'm not trading Nyquist. I'm not trading Mrazek. I'm not trading Sheahan. There's guys I would not part ways with. Pulkkinen, who leads the AHL in goals. You have to be firm that you are developing great players and they're succeeding in the NHL. That if the price comes down on Myers, yeah, I'd pull the trigger. If not, I have a perfectly legitimate plan B for Red Wing fans out there.
Let's hear it.
Marek Zidlicki.
Explain
38 years old.
Does he have a Wikipedia page I can search him on?
Yeah, you can look him up. He played for Nashville to break in 03. Got a great shot. He's a right-hander, offensive defenseman. New Jersey's bad. He's a contract year situation. You might be able to get him for peanuts. And it's a low-risk, high-reward trade. Now, I'd rather have the top 4 defensemen and Tyler Myers, but I would go to Buffalo and say, this is best-case scenario. I'm willing to part with guys like Yurko or Ouellette, and we could talk.
Wait, you're willing to part with Ouellette?
Yeah, to get Tyler Myers.
Oh, yeah, that's true, right.
Yeah, you're talking about a defenseman, a big-time defenseman. And really, Ouellette's played nice in a couple games. I think he's good enough to be on the team. It doesn't mean he's good enough to be one of their best players. And Meyer has sloped down, but he's on a bad team. Plus-minus is severely negative, but I think that changes if you put him on the right team and put him with the right pairing. So I think you have 2 legitimate options as Red Wing fans out there. You can give up a lot for Tyler Myers or hope the price comes down. Or how about Marek Zidlicki, 38 years old, the Devils, right-handed shot, low risk. Those, to me, are your 2 options as we get closer to the deadline. And now they're starting to talk, reports out, Babcock and Holland discussing strategy. That's my strategy. Get your right-handed shot. You have the high risk, and you have the low-risk options.
Well, I think there's some untouchables on this team, and I think there's also some pieces that could be moved. I think Yurko is a guy you'd be willing to move. I mean, you're not maybe a Sheahan you can move as well, but Tatar you're not touching, Nyquist you're not touching, Mantha you're not touching, Ouellette I'd almost not be willing to touch unless you're getting Myers. I mean, you're not moving to get that 38-year-old dad who's
No.
playing hockey in New Jersey or whatever you're saying.
No. You wouldn't give up a prime prospect to get that. I'm saying, but you could bring him on.
You're not touching Peter Mrazek.
No.
If there's anybody out there who's willing to trade Peter Mrazek to try to win now, you are insane.
Well, that's the notion. Let's get back to that, the whole win now. You've got older players,
And I
three
think
of them.
that's the bigger point, because you take a look at the windows and you have one end of the spectrum here with the 36-year-old guys that have already done it, have already won a Stanley Cup here in the younger years, and then the kids coming up still in their diapers at 22 to 25, and the oldest being Nyquist at 25. And I compared it to the women's basketball team here with Central Michigan when they won the MAC title 2 years ago. You had seniors who were really tough, and then you had freshmen who were able to pick things up that they kind of lacked. And this team, is the window too spread apart, Jim? I guess is the question I'm willing to ask. Are they too young to where they're not reaching their prime yet? But those guys, by the time that they're out the door, they'll just be reaching their prime. And I think the window is a little bit longer than Zetterberg is saying, right?
Well, but and his window was really not referring to the team's title window, but like kind of his personal window. Like, hey, I only got so many years, and it wasn't like a challenge to management as much as he was just being honest and said, "Listen, I only have so many years."
Well, I think the window right now is perfect. I mean, you're first in the East. You're 9-1 over your last 10 games. Thomas Tatar is going to score 35 goals this year, 35, maybe 40 goals. And
Not in his prime yet? You're waiting to get in the prime?
That's the thing. I mean, you talk about prime in sports, and pretty much across the board, you're thinking, 26 to 30, right? 28's usually that number. Tatar's only 24. Nyquist, 25. Yurko, 22. Sheahan, 23. I mean, these are guys that haven't even reached their quote-unquote prime yet, right? So if those guys get to, 37, 38, 39, and these guys are just entering their prime, I think the time is now, and I think it's in the next 2 or 3 years. But I'm also not afraid to say that those young guys by themselves can do it once they hit that prime.
Well,
they have so many guys that are down there. You'll have Ouellette, who is younger now, coming up. You'll have Mantha, who is younger. And by that time, hopefully, Peter Mrazek's your full-time goalkeeper. Because I think when he hits 24, 25, and we've already seen flashes of it now, he's going to be a top 5 goalie in the NHL.
Well, let's not make a mistake by saying that the young guys could win it by themselves, because I think it's easy to look past Datsuk and Zetterberg and what they do from a two-way standpoint. Like, because they're so good at playing in both ends, it allows that younger line to just be
to get all the glory.
To just be a scoring line. And you know what? Datsuk, he's in a really rough stretch right now. I think he's got 1 goal in his last 10 games. He's a guy that you're going to look at as a guy that is still going to play well in big-time games for you, especially in the postseason. And he's going to be a guy that can go against the other team's best line. It would be very different. That's a huge part of it. If teams started going after your Sheahan, Nyquist, Tatar lines, and they move the lines around all the time. But that's the type of guys who would be going up against the other team's premier guys if you don't have a Zetterberg or a Datsuk. But to your point, these guys are playing what would appear to be
almost
what you
prime hockey.
Well, I can't imagine some of these guys being better. Now, there is still a ceiling for some of these guys that they
if
could
Tatar if he's got more room than now, I mean, he's going to be a 50-goal scorer eventually, right?
Well, yeah.
Nyquist could do the same.
And that's why you don't want to trade some of these guys, and there's a list of untouchables. But the thing you touched on, the fact that they're in first place in the East, gives them all the leverage in the world, right? Because if they don't get the right offer,
then you can stay put.
If Buffalo says, you know what, we need Mantha, and we need a guy like a Nyquist or a Tatar, you go, you're out of your mind. Go home.
Yeah, we'll take a second round or two.
Yeah, Buffalo, go home. You're drunk. We're not making that trade. And what you do is you just try to whittle them down as the deadline gets closer when you have a better chance to make a deal because they feel the pressure. And fine, if another team wants to overpay for Tyler Myers, listen, he's not the best thing since sliced bread. You can go out and
Let's
get him.
not undersell him either, though.
Well,
he's a top 5 defenseman in the NHL, right?
In the whole league?
Well, as a righty.
Oh, okay. Well, right-handers are harder to find, and that's really where his value is more than anything. The fact that he's a big body and a right-handed shot, harder to find, and he's 25. There's a lot to be desired. I mean, there's a lot that you would like if you could get Tyler Myers, but really, you're in a position of great leverage. If you can't get Tyler Myers, Zidlicky's just one name that I was able to go out and look at.
And
and
he's a temporary fix. He's a guy that you'd add now to win this year or maybe next year.
He could hit the curb next year.
Yeah.
You just bring him. He's got 1 year in his contract, right-handed shot. Maybe
so what's the most you're willing to give up for him?
Bag of pucks?
A bag of pucks.
I don't know, someone who's in
Jim.
Grand Rapids that isn't any of the guys I've mentioned.